So we have a quorum. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday, August 12th, 2020 meeting of the East Long Meadow Conservation Commission. Pursuant with Mass General Law, I need to ask at this time if anybody in the audience is recording this meeting. If so, please raise your hand and identify yourself. Don, let me know if anybody acknowledges.
I don't see anybody, Craig. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item number 1, it's a continuation of a public hearing for a notice of intent for Pease Road. Don, I believe the applicant should be in the audience.
Coming in now.
There we go. Good evening.
Good evening.
So, again, I have the plan that I can share if you would allow me. So I will do that.
Sure.
Once I'm enabled.
Pretty sure we all have copies of them that are here. So
Yep.
you can follow along.
Okay, well, it's up to you. Anyone in the public or anything, I don't know. However you want to do it. We can.
Yeah, I guess if you could go over the plans for the public, that would be a good idea.
Okay. Well, in that case, if I could get, it's telling me I don't have the ability to share at this point in time. The host has to enable that for me.
Did you get that, Don?
Yep, 1 second.
Thank you.
Okay, you're all set to share.
All right, thank you. So, all right. Move it.
All right, Erin, can you mute your computer?
Yes, I'm sorry. I just had to get my own plan out. I'm good.
Thank you.
All right. So, good evening again. I am Tim Kuhn with J.R. Russo and Associates here tonight representing the applicant Manny Marino, who is in the office with me across the table. We made the presentation initially on July 22nd, and we're continued to allow us to revise the plan to address some of the commissioner's comments. One thing I did do is I provided the resume at your request for our wetland consultant, Keith Morris, and I believe he is attending this meeting, is available should you have any questions for him. We did revise the plans to address the commission's expressed desire for the non-disturbance within 25 feet. That's the main thing that we did. And I wish I could, oh, there we go. Scan over here. You may recall the original plans that were submitted. We had our detention basin located over in this corner of the property, and which is all located within this green being the wetland line in this little area within the buffer zone to the wetland. And we had some grading up to, I think was in 5 feet of the wetland on that initial plan. Based on your comments at the meeting, we relooked at it all, and we did actually determine that we could relocate that basin up here on this side of the wetland finger here. So we've gone and we've made that change. We've relocated our detention basin. It is a dry detention basin as an outlet structure. And with and you'll notice that, you know, we've reduced this the dark yellow line is our limit of work line, which corresponds with our limit of clearing. And it also corresponds with this 25-foot buffer to the wetland, which was requested. So we reconfigured that, reduced the clearing in the buffer zone, reduced the disturbance completely, with one exception as shown on this plan. And that exception is for the outlet to the detention basin. When we relocated the basin up on this side of the wetland finger, we were concerned that we might be cutting off some of the flow into this wetland. And we wanted to see, all right, can we at least take the runoff that comes into the basin and discharge it to that wetland? So we can do that, unfortunately, because of elevation. In order to do that, there is a little bit of disturbance within the 25 foot of this wetland finger, if you will. There's about, I think, overall 871 square feet of disturbance in this little area within that 25 foot. However, some of it is already cleared and has already been disturbed, associated with the installation of some of these utilities come through here. You'll notice there is an existing sanitary sewer line and an existing water main which already come through this area. So that has been previously disturbed, but we do have a little bit of disturbance just associated with this outlet pipe. Okay. We did look at an alternative. It can be done, and I'm going to switch, if I can, here to my Exhibit 2. This is Exhibit 2. This is alternate 2. We did provide both of these with the revised plans, and you'll see this one, the outlet no longer comes to the edge of the wetland here with disturbance, but we come down further and we discharge down further to the west. And in this particular case, there is no disturbance within the 25-foot buffer. However, we feel that the first alternative is a better option because it ensures that we continue to provide runoff into this wetland finger. So that is something that, as a commission, I guess you can discuss and tell us how you feel about one alternative versus the other, but we did provide them both. Another comment at the last meeting was the desire to provide some infiltration or rain gardens in our stormwater system. To address that, we did take our catch basin at the cul-de-sac. It was located on the curb, and we were running all our runoff to it. What we've done is we moved it into the center of the cul-de-sac, and we've created a depression in the cul-de-sac. So now the catch basin works as an overflow structure. We've regraded the cul-de-sac so that the runoff from this paved area all comes into this depression, and it has the opportunity to pool before it spills over into the catch basin and is directed into our detention basin. But that water that pools will have the opportunity to infiltrate into the ground. So we are, similar to a rain garden, we are providing a little infiltration at that location. And we also did install an under drain under here, under this depression, to ensure that that ponded water does drain completely after a storm event, so we don't have standing water in our cul-de-sac for any length of time. So that is essentially it with regard to our revisions. We hope they're satisfactory. I do want to mention that, Manny purchased this property in the hopes that his family and his sister's family could build at these locations, that they could have two building lots next to each other so they could build next to each other. This isn't a case where he's looking to subdivide this and make a profit. He's, obviously this, with the need for the cul-de-sac, it's going to be very expensive. And really his desire is just to be able to get two building lots next to each other so that the two families can build next to each other. And we hope that you approve his application so that he can move forward with that. Be happy to answer any questions at this time.
If I may, Tim,
Yep.
before we turn it over to the public and see if there's any comments. I didn't quite catch what you said, that there's an extra type of drain in the center of the cul-de-sac there to get
There's an, yeah,
runoff.
there's an under drain. So this depression, we put an under drain underneath it so that when the water can, if the soils are frozen or for whatever reason, it's not infiltrating or it infiltrates too slowly, we have an under drain in there so that it can drain out into the catch basin and go into the detention basin. It's just a measure so that we don't have standing water there for any length of time. We don't want mosquitoes and stuff like that.
And so will there be openings around that center in the curbing or berm, or is there no berm there?
No berm, no berm. It's just going to be graded so that it can come in from all directions into the center and down into the depression.
Thank you. I guess at this point, and I was just asking that because I didn't quite hear and I wanted a little clarification. But what I'd like to do is open it up to the public for comments, and then we will bring it back to the board for further discussion. Don and
I see nobody raising a hand. Oh, there we go. Hang on. Brad and Carleen.
Hi there. This is Brad and Carleen Hoffman from Devonshire Terrace. We're a neighbor of Von Wilfong. We want to thank you for going back to the drawing board and coming up with 2 other options. We're very excited about that. We're very much in favor of your second option. We think that you did a really great job with that. Thank you. Out of curiosity, I'm just curious to know, within how many feet will you be going next to Mr. Wilfong's property?
that would be right along the property line on the, I guess you could call it the north side of the property, correct, Tim?
That's correct. Actually, yes. And that'll be, yeah, clearing so we can grade the detention basin.
Okay, so there wouldn't be much clearance then, right? You'd just be within a few feet of his property?
Yeah,
Correct.
we'd be, right.
Okay,
They're gonna cut down all the trees to make that basin, but the house won't be there.
okay. All right, thank you. I guess that's all we have to say.
Thank you, we appreciate
Thank you.
your comments. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to comment or have a question?
Not seeing any hands, Craig.
Not seeing any hands. All right, I guess what I'd like to do now is bring it back to the board for some questions or comments before we officially close the public hearing. Aaron?
Well, my question is, given those of you that have been on the board longer, the first one that they actually, is that what I'm seeing right now is the first version?
Yeah, this is alternate one.
Okay, so what is the second version that kind of travels farther away from the buffer zone? What is the benefit of one versus the other? And so you're saying you wanted to use the first one because you felt that the water would feed the wetlands.
Yeah, we believe there's a benefit.
I got it, Tim.
Go ahead.
The benefit to that would be in the finger wetland that comes onto
Yep.
the property.
Yep,
Where we are showing on this plan here is we are actually showing it in a certain area like 10 feet away. And I believe Tim stated there was 871 square feet of alteration inside the 25-foot buffer zone. And some of that has already been altered.
Okay.
And some of it is cleared out there. And so what that does is that it just pulls it away from there and drains the basin off into the wetland on the west side, if you will.
Yes, okay.
Is that correct, Tim?
Yeah, that's the difference. Yep.
And so can you, Tim, can you show me the first, the second version of this?
Sure, this is the first where we
Yep.
can
Yep.
drain back into the wetland finger. And this is the second where it's going to drain further down into this wetland.
Okay, so basically, okay. But this, the original, the first, not the original, but the new first version.
Yep.
Within the 25-foot buffer zone.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't, because of the elevation, we couldn't make it work
Mhm.
to discharge of that wetland finger without doing that.
Okay.
Through the chair. Through the chair.
Yep.
Basically, I think the disturbance will be just to run the pipe. And then part of that will be covered over and can revegetate after, if I'm not mistaken, except for the actual water outfall is going.
That's absolutely correct.
The one question that I had pertaining to this area also, where we've got the limit of work line and the the silt fence 25 feet away, where we turn to the north and head towards that finger wetland, and then we head towards the east a little bit. It appeared to me on the drawing that once you just get past the wetland, we're actually showing that curly type line, I will call it, that actually shows the limit of clearing. That's actually
That's correct.
outside where the silt fence is. Is that correct?
This is the existing tree line. So this is an area that is already cleared, but not where we're
Right.
doing any work. So
Okay.
we felt we could put our silt fence up at the edge of where we're doing work.
Okay, I thought that line continued all the way around. It was a little confusing to me on the drawing, but thank you.
Okay.
I'm just going to throw out a point here. And Tim, do you think that you could, instead of doing that detention basin, put an underground infiltrator in there to do the same thing, but not have that kind of open pit?
Unfortunately, no. The reason for this detention basin is to provide storage so that we're not increasing the peak rate of runoff downstream of the property after the development. So we need the storage area that's provided by this pit, if you will, this basin. And unfortunately, we did do some soils testing out there, and there's a hard pan layer. So infiltration is going to be minimal.
Okay.
Given the fact that we have that hard pan layer, Tim,
Yes.
and this basin is a different configuration than the one that was initially shown, where particularly the lowest elevation is not of the same square footage that the initial one is. How are we determining that this is still going to be a dry basin just because of that drain that's in there? It's going to
Yeah.
take it right out.
Yeah, the basin's going to be sloped to an outlet pipe, so it's going to have a chance to drain completely, regardless of what the source of water is. But we suspect, we're not too far from where we did our test pits. We're just a little bit further up the hill. We do suspect that because we're in such close proximity, the soil conditions are going to be similar with the similar hard pan here.
Okay.
Question, please, to the chair. I'm looking at the plan where you've got the undergrid in the circle, and you've got a pipe connecting that undergrid to the drain basin, right? Am I
That's correct.
seeing that properly? So
Yep.
will that flow both ways, or, I mean, it's going to, if there's too much water in the under drain, it'll go to the basin, right?
Yeah, the water.
And vice versa?
Yeah, well, it won't be able to back up into under drain because of the elevation difference. It's not going to rise up out of that. But if there's but the under drain is connected so that it can get out to the detention basin to the north.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was concerned that it doesn't go the other way.
No.
No, yeah, I see that. It's the same elevation as the top of the drain.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, and then I like, unfortunately for the long pipeline, but I like the one that drains to the west, the wetlands in the west the best. You know, you gave two choices, one
Yep.
that drains immediately there and the other one that drains all the way around to the back to the west. So I'm just thinking that one seems more reasonable, especially since you can cover it over with vegetation.
Well, the other one will be too, Francis.
Yeah, it would also be covered.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
It's
Alright.
just that it's going to be feeding that wetland to the north there. Instead of carrying water away from it, it'll help to keep that water flowing in there the way it flows now.
Yeah, well, the wetlands to the north have a higher elevation than the wetlands to the west. You notice that?
Yeah, but still,
Will it come back down eventually? I mean,
Ultimately, the water that enters that wetland finger does come around through this wetland. So if by discharging here, we're not taking any runoff or water away from this location because it does ultimately come back down through that wetland.
okay, thank you. That was my concern. Okay, thank you. So then the shorter one might be better. Yeah.
I would at this point like just take a moment to point out that right now we are currently not approving a house plan for the lot that would be on the west side of the property,
Mm-mm.
and the lot on the east side of the property would be non-jurisdictional to us in the future. And I guess at this point, I'd like to offer to the public again, based on just our brief discussion here. Does anybody in the public have a question or a concern that they would like to voice at this time?
We've got one. Hold on one second.
did Tony ever call in?
I thought I saw it.
Yes, it's the Hoffmans again. And Carlene had said before, we like the option 2 a little bit better because it's going to direct the water away from our property, which we just wanted to explain that instead of a question, but you asked if we had any comments. So one of them makes it come back towards our property a bit more and the other one doesn't. That's the reason for our preference on it. But we understand that you all are the ones who ultimately make the decision. And again, thank you for your care and opening also of giving us comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Actually, could I ask the chair to ask them a question?
Go ahead, Aaron.
So Brad and Charlene, are they still there?
They're watching, they can hear you.
I'm just curious as to, as that wetland maybe gets runoff, does that affect their property at all, or their kind of, you know, experience of their property? Does it matter?
So
Do
we've
they-
got, I understand your question. We've got the lots, the 2 lots next to Von Wildfong, 50
Yep.
and 64 Devonshire Terrace. And
Okay.
part of the runoff from our development is the wetland that's got a pond in our lot of 64 Devonshire Terrace.
Okay,
And we're looking to make sure that doesn't get more added to it, which is why we
Right.
like the thing in option 2, because it's got less, at least the way we're looking at this and thinking about the way the land goes, it looks like less of it will come our direction with option 2 than in option 1.
So,
do you have a lot of issues with that getting over full on your property?
Not right now. I like to make sure it stays that
Keep
way.
it that way.
Oh,
so if I may, are you then between the Wilfong property and Davis property?
Yes,
Okay, it's just not showing up on the plan here.
right.
Okay.
But you don't, this isn't your property here. You're further to the north, correct?
Right, we're like up where it says Exhibit 2 in Josie Lane,
Okay,
which I think if your wetland, if you had the map keep going, would go up that way and it would start veering towards Josie Lane, that green line there.
yeah, yeah.
It does. However, I believe the elevation continues to rise as you go north because this wetland actually comes out here and there's almost a little braided stream where you can see that the flow turns almost immediately and comes down into the brook along the western property line. So I don't believe that the runoff that enters this little finger is going to have an impact that far north to the wetland where the pond is. I think it's going to come down and around much closer to the property line. Just if that gives you any comfort.
Mm-hmm.
From your lips to God's ears, Tim.
One of the things, if I can at this point, that, you know, and maybe you could, you know, a little more explanation, Tim. Number one, if you could go over just a little bit of what's involved in the grade changes on the property, because I know there is some, and I'm a little bit on the fence about this going closer to the wetland. And when we were there on our site visit, I'm going to say I don't believe right there on the southeast corner, I'm going to say there was just grass growing there, and it might have been similar to 1 foot high hay. And by putting this basin where it's going and then funneling everything to the west, we could actually be taking water away from that finger of the wetland there, as opposed to putting more of it back in there. But so if you could explain the grade changes, Tim, and your thoughts on my comment.
Are you thinking right from this discharge point, it's not going to get to the wetland? Is that what you're?
Well, I'm
concerned?
thinking if we don't have that there's going to be less water going into that wetland than there is right now.
And I would agree with you. And that's why we feel that this alternative is the better alternative, because there is a portion of the uphill area here where the runoff comes down currently and follows the grade into this wetland finger. And when this basin will intercept that. It will intercept that, which is why we want to put it back in there with this alternative as opposed to diverting it down and kind of bypassing that wetland down to the west.
Because
yeah, the grades do come down the hill. The water does run down the hill, and a portion of it does come into this wetland. Others bypass it going down here, but there certainly would be a portion of runoff that this basin would intercept.
yes, because everything's grading from east to west, relatively speaking.
Yep.
It's going to go into the basin, and water that would naturally be going into that wetland would not be. There would be a lot less going in there than there currently is.
Yeah.
So there is a potential for that to be drying up a bit.
Well, that's why we're discharging it there, because by putting the discharge there, we're maintaining the same water flow that goes there now. We'd actually be increasing it a little because you're getting more volume from the cul-de-sac as well.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding the grading. Your grading markers end at 332, if I'm not mistaken, and they don't go into the wetland area. Do you know offhand what the grading is as it goes west, up in that upper area where you're going to drain? I don't see any grading markers there.
Well, these are the contours. The existing
Right.
contours come down, and
And
then this
then?
is the 330 contour comes across here, and then it comes down. These are tighter together, which indicates it's steeper,
Mm-hmm.
and then it comes down here and it flattens out a bit.
Yep.
Actually, the topography is, there's micro topography. These are 2-foot contours, so this topography doesn't really indicate the low spot that's here in the wetland finger, which directs stuff out to the north. Because of the 2-foot contours, we don't pick up that much detail. But in general, everything comes down the hill, and the existing contours they show that it continues down to the west.
Okay, so it doesn't go north, it goes west.
It goes west, other than, like, as I mentioned, there is some micro topography which really doesn't show up because it's less than 2 foot
Yeah.
elevation difference, so it doesn't show up on our 2 foot contours in this wetland figure itself, which kind of runs to the north.
Yeah, we can see the grade changes. The dotted lines that show the grade are the existing. The
Yes.
solid ones are the proposed.
Does that answer your question?
I still am concerned about the grading farther down, but it's okay. I see what you're, as long as the water doesn't go north, then Brad and
Oh.
Carleen, the Hoffmans don't have a problem. But if it goes north, then that's going towards their wet area, towards their pond. But you say it doesn't. It goes.
I don't believe it'll reach their pond. I believe their pond's at a higher elevation, because I believe this wetland thing, and maybe if Keith is on the line, Keith Morris, he might be able to back me up from his wetland delineation that there's a little depression through here which directs the runoff immediately around to the west.
Yeah,
Is Keith on the line?
You know, essentially, we're going down Pease Road here as you move to the west.
Yeah.
And then actually, as you go to the west, then it starts and turns south, and it crosses Pease Road through a culvert down in this section.
okay.
Okay, I'd like to ask one more time, is there any other questions or comments from the public? Are we all clear with the public comments?
There's one, hold on. Keith, you had your hand up. Did you have something to say?
He's muted. Does he know he's muted?
All right, is that better?
There you go.
Sorry about that. I hate Zoom meetings, but my name's Keith Morris. I'm the environmental consultant who did the actual delineation, and I was trying to get in there when Tim was mentioning about the flow. Yeah, once the water does enter that little finger, as it ponds, it would overflow slightly. There's a slight channel, and it does bend around to the west along like flags W10 through W15. And eventually, yeah, and then eventually enters the main channel and flows south. So as far as any impact further up north, I don't see that as being an issue. And just to kind of confirm what Tim said, I do believe the first alternative with the outfall into this wetland will ensure that, you know, it's not going to be impacted negatively as far as the amount of water if we were to discharge it further to the west as an alternative too. And the basin itself, if I remember, pretty much in the open field area, I kind of remember if you connect flags W20 and 21 and just kind of continue west, that's kind of the edge of the, more or less the edge of the forest.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for that clarification. Yeah.
Okay, at this time, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor, we need to do a roll call vote. Jeffrey,
Yes.
Francis,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Tony, is that you there?
Yes, it is.
Is that a yes vote?
Yes, it is.
And I am a yes also. Okay, bringing it back to the board one more time for further discussion or comments.
Well, basically, I'm in favor of the Exhibit 1 with the shorter outfall going to the wetland to the north.
Aaron?
I agree with Jeff. Just to keep that wetland full and as long as the slope is down and keeps it away from the other homeowners, yes, it looks like a good plan. The first one.
Same here.
Francis?
Yes, I agree that now that my concern has been answered, I don't see any problem.
Tony, any comments?
No, I agree.
All righty. I guess at this point, I will entertain a motion to approve the newly submitted notice of intent as per the drawings that were provided.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we need to do a roll call vote again. Jeffrey,
Aye.
Francis,
Yes,
Aaron,
Yes,
Tony,
Yes.
and I am a yes also. So good luck, Tim.
Thank you very much, and the brother-in-law and Manny thank you as well. Thank you.
Okay.
When
thanks.
do you have a
Good luck.
do you have a proposed start date?
I go have to do the planning board now. Yeah, we will be at planning board next week, and then
Oh,
it'll
that's
be, yeah, a matter of when they can get their building plans in and approved.
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, they still got to come back for building permits, and we'll have to come back to you guys for the lot when that's done. But they'll be able to start then.
All right.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Good luck, Tim.
Thanks.
Thank you. All righty, once again, we're blessed with a pretty light agenda this evening. If we go to project monitoring, I guess it's kind of in there, monitoring / new business. I had a question for Bethany. Did the letter go to Pondview and to Bill LaPlante, the owners at that lot on Pondview Drive, about filing notice of intent?
I followed up with an email just because lately emails have been more reliable than mail. As a lot of people are working from home. So I emailed him last week, just a reminder that we're looking for a notice of intent, and the commission is looking forward to receiving a notice of intent from him. And I think that was sent to Rich Walls, who's also works for the same company.
Okay, but did the homeowner get it also?
The homeowner, no, I can send that. I don't know if I have their contact information.
Well, I'm going to recommend that we do an official letter directly to the homeowner, with stressing immediate to get that NOI in, or the possibility of issuing a cease and desist until we get it, because it should have been done a long time ago.
Okay, I can draft that up.
Okay, thanks.
What
Yeah,
was the address on that again? Sorry.
That's lot 5 at Pondview Drive.
Thank you.
I believe it is, yeah. And could you copy me on those emails that went out to Bill, please? The other one that I had here in the project monitoring is we had that letter from Al Joyce that we did not respond to yet. But Bethany, if you could, can you go through the photos that were received that day? Because I spoke with Jeff about it, and we're pretty sure those correct photos are in some information that Jeff emailed you showing the red water there.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if Aaron and Francis and Tony saw it, but we got a
No,
letter from Al Joyce saying he's requesting that we withdraw the enforcement order because the photos that were attached with it were actually of the basin, not over, and this is for lots 19 and 20, I believe.
yep.
Mhm. So if we could take a look at that, Bethany, and send them over to these photos, other photos that you have received, because I'm pretty sure they're in there.
Okay.
Should be in the file.
Yeah, and then, and then also there was comments in there from Mr. Joyce about, how everything's working, and they've been monitoring it during significant rainstorms, but in my opinion, we haven't had too much of a significant rainstorm since the new
Yeah.
erosion controls were put in. You know, we're still borderline drought conditions here. But we do need to draft that letter and get a response out to Mr. Joyce pretty quickly.
Yeah, I read that one. Yep. Okay.
The other one I wanted to bring up was 53 Old Farm Road that filed a request for a certificate of compliance. And then as per our standard procedure, we asked for a letter from a surveyor or an engineer or something saying that it's been built according to the plans. There was a response from the applicant's lawyer stating that they would have a hard time getting the drawings and the information from something that was done in, I believe it was 1994 or 1984. I think it was 84 actually. However, Jeff did some research and pretty much it's all there. I mean, we probably have it at the town hall, but it's all recorded at the registry of deeds. But essentially what this lawyer claimed that based on some certain case, they do not need to file this certificate of compliance in order to sell the property, which goes against everything I've known since I've been on the commission. And so I guess what,
if I may, the mortgage that's with the current owner clearly states and has the attachment of the orders of conditions right in the mortgage, that anything has to be gone through the Conservation Commission. Also, there was in 2010, the original mortgage was 2002. 2010, the current homeowner went before the zoning board to get a variance to put in an in-ground pool. And which, as far as jurisdiction states, the zoning board said where they originally wanted to put it, they couldn't. They said because basically most of your property is wetland. So there's definitely a jurisdictional issue that we have jurisdiction, and with most of the houses on that side of the street. And also the original mortgage or whatever back in, I believe it was in the 90s, when Michael Caine had the property, there's also the original order of conditions attached to that deed and mortgage. So the documentation is there. The lawyer is absolutely wrong. And I went by there today and there was a U-Haul truck. So I don't know if somebody's moving in or moving out, but there's definitely something going on there. I don't know if the property's been sold or not, but they do definitely need to file a certificate of compliance.
and there was some additional emails that went out, and even Mark Stinson was involved, but he would not opine on it, to quote him. But like I said, this lawyer did state a case, and I guess just moving forward, personally, I would like some clarification on it. And so I guess I'm gonna ask you to take on another one, Bethany, that if you can check with the town manager's office and to see if we can be authorized to get an opinion from Jesse, the town attorney.
Sure, I can ask.
Thank you. I also, did a drive-by there, and it did appear that it was vacant or people were moving out. It didn't seem like there was anybody there when I went by. But if you just continue up Old Farm Road as you're heading to 101, where we had some other issues up there, on the same side of the street, if you look at, the address is 79, I believe it is, Old Farm Road.
Yep, it's a couple houses up from 53.
Yeah, 2 or 3 up. If anybody wants to drive by, feel free, but I believe the same order of conditions applies that I have a copy of, and if Bethany, if everybody else didn't get copies, please send them out to everybody.
Okay.
That this lot is included in the same order of conditions, and this entire development had a 50-foot limit of work line. But if you look at this house 79 and just look in the backyard, there's been an extensive amount of work done there. And
It's still going on.
Still going on, yes. They were working there when I was there the other day.
They're working today.
And it appears to be past the 50-foot buffer zone, or 50-foot limit of work line, I would say. So that is something we really need to go look at, because we might possibly need to do an enforcement order, but they put in a retaining wall system, and there's actually a pretty substantial size fireplace, I guess, if you would call it, right, Jeff?
Yes, yes. And it looks like they brought in an extensive amount of fill to raise up the level.
So this is something that we need to look at and might need to go do a site visit in the relatively near future to see if they are or not in compliance. And then if we're going out there to take a look at that, then we probably will just get the information and call them and set up a site visit. But then at the same time, I guess since we're right there, we should go look at 53 Old Farm Road, which does not have a certificate of compliance. And we need to check that for 79 also. But being that 53 does not have it, since we're right there, we should go look at it, you know, and make sure that the limited work markers and everything are installed there. So in the near future, you'll be getting some emails to go view those two sites.
Okay.
Other than that, regarding project monitoring, anytime that we've had a little bit more rainfall, it's been late at night or something, so I haven't been into hidden ponds in a while, or down to Bella Vista, but I didn't have anything else to add in regards to project monitoring, other than we do have a new call today regarding something on Avery Street that Jeff went and looked at, and we didn't get any clear answers on that. But does anybody else have anything on project monitoring?
I do.
Go ahead, Tony.
No, I was telling Jeff earlier, about a week and a half ago, I went over to Robin Road, Smith and Robin. Nothing's been done over there.
Okay.
So I just thought I'd report that.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if he's been to the planning board or not yet.
So I know the lot's overgrown again,
Yeah.
so that's
He
all.
did extend that silt fence as we asked him to do though a while ago.
Yeah, the silt fence is up, and if you go where that vacant house is on top of the hill and look down, you'll see there's like 3 or 4, and I don't know if they were there before, mounds of like wood chips. And that's leaning right up against the silt fence.
Okay.
I was out at Bella Vista today. Everything looks pretty good out there.
Okay.
And also, while I was at Old Farm, I did notice that 101 had his driveway redone with the extension that was approved on there.
Where was that? I'm sorry.
101 Old Farm.
101 Old Farm. Okay.
That's where we
That
had
was-
him do the restoration in the back.
Where he had cut down the trees in the wetlands.
He actually contacted us a couple weeks ago also about getting his enforcement order lifted. But, you know, I just emailed Bethany about it, that it needs to stay in place. I'm not sure if we had a year or 2 years of the growing season to make sure those trees take root and actually continue to grow before we left the enforcement order.
Normally, I think it's for 2 growing seasons.
Is anyone up to go up to 79 Old Farms Road tonight? It's a beautiful night.
I'm
Sure,
good.
drive by. I mean, we don't have anything set up. If you want to go knock on the door, you can, but it's
Oh, okay, no. I just thought we could go up there and just view it.
Don't see much.
it's easy. It takes a minute driving by.
No, I mean, I don't want to enter the property if we don't have permission.
Well, essentially just like 53, if it's like 53 Old Farm Road and there's been no certificate of compliance, we don't need to. If there's an open notice of intent, we can just enter the property anytime we want.
Okay.
But yes, it is a good courtesy thing to do to notify the homeowners. Yep.
Okay.
Could I just ask a quick question of Bethany, Craig? Bethany, before I got my ID, we went into COVID. So I don't have a tag saying if I want to go visit. Is there a way that you can recommend I try to get that?
You'd have to contact the IT department.
Okay.
I can,
At the town hall?
they're actually at the high school.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Do you
They're
have
on
an
a-
email for them, or I can email you a contact?
Would you please?
Anything else under project monitoring?
Is it okay if I put in the project monitoring sheet what's been said here today, Bethany, or will our intern do that?
That's up to you. Feel free to add it if you'd like to.
I took some notes, so if something isn't right, Craig and Jeff, feel free to change it.
Okay, I haven't ventured in to try and do that yet.
I'll do it, but I just took a few notes from what you said, so I'm not sure I got it right. The other thing is, are we going to approve the minutes of the last meeting or not?
Oh, I didn't do that at the beginning.
No.
No, you
All right.
skipped right over.
Yep. We do that at the beginning of the meetings now, but I would say for probably the first 8 years or so of when I was on the commission, we always did that at the end of the meetings.
Oh,
Mhm.
And I believe it's proper procedure, I guess, to do it before. But we
yeah.
always used to do it after because we had applicants waiting in there, and sometimes not often, but sometimes we'd be going over some changes to the minutes, and it would take 10 or 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And we have applicants waiting. I'd rather get them done. They don't want to listen to us approve minutes. I wouldn't typically, but.
Ideally, we would, oh, sorry, Jeff. Sorry, Craig. Ideally, we would read the minutes when we receive them from Bethany and have our suggestions ready or send them to her. But it's nice to do it at the beginning, so if there's any follow-up on cases, we're reviewing what happened at the last meeting, I think. And I think that's why it's usually at the beginning.
Yeah, so we've been doing it. I don't have a problem with it. Yep. But based on that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the July 22nd, 2020 minutes of the Conservation Commission.
So moved.
There a second?
I wasn't at the meeting.
Yep.
Second,
All righty. Now roll call vote to approve. Jeffrey,
yes.
Francis,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
and I am a yes also. Okay, policies and procedures of the commission. I really don't have a lot, but I guess I just have one if any people want to think about it a little bit. And this Pease Road project is like the example of it. Because there's an East Long Meadow, I believe it's a regulation that states that, any housing or something gets done like this two-house project here, has to comply with stormwater regulations. And what we are doing is we're superseding the state regulation. As far as the state is concerned, you don't have to do this until there's a 4-lot subdivision. And then this one is only a 2-lot subdivision. And the reasoning is we want to not have all the town does not want to have all this stormwater, excuse me, going into the existing system, the existing stormwater system, and they want to keep it on the property. And so I get it, and it's a good idea, but it massively increases the cost to the builder. And the other thing that concerns me, and I understand that the applicant is saying that this is going to be a dry basin, but not all basins will be like that. And with the triple E and that sort of thing, I'm not in favor of putting more mosquito factories in town. And so it is something that, you know, if you just want to think about it, if we want to look at, you know, talking with the DPW and planning board, maybe about changing that regulation. Because obviously with the first plan, and I think the second plan was a lot better when we moved it, because the first plan, it was entirely in the buffer zone, that basin.
Yeah.
You know, and so we were altering over 5,000 square feet of the buffer zone. There's not as many trees that are being cut down now, but there still are some trees that are being cut down that provide shade, you know, and habitat and that sort of thing. And, you know, and now we're just digging a storm hole drain in the ground. So from my conservation side of it, I think it's quite a bit of work to do for 2 houses. But so that's my 2 cents worth on that.
I'm going to throw in my 2 cents as a semi-developer, if you will. The cost factor for the developer, which will eventually be passed on to the person who buys that, is enormous. I mean, you have no idea how expensive that whole thing is. And if you look at the topography of that land, most of that runoff is going to go right back onto that land, and it's just going to go right into the ground the way it was. And when you, and the other side of the coin is the town's stormwater regulation that DPW created in 2012, saying if you disturb more than 1 acre of land. Well, you know, really, if you actually think about it, the only real disturbance is the putting in of the street with the cul-de-sac, and that whole thing is not going to want to be an acre. So, so you're actually creating something that didn't need to be created. And then another factor to take into consideration, DPW went before the town council and got a stormwater enterprise fund approved last year. So every resident in town that owns a house and every business in town is being assessed a stormwater fee for stormwater runoff off their roof or driveway going into the stormwater system. And if you look, for example, at these 2 lots, yeah, okay, they've got long driveways, but how much of that water running off the roof is that, or even off their driveways? None of it's going to make it into the street. It's all going to stay right on those properties. So, and the other side of the coin is the town is collecting over $300,000 a year in a stormwater fee, but they're telling developers, you have to put these big detention things in the stormwater on your property, create a homeowners association who's supposed to maintain these things. And if you go around town and look at all these developments around where they have those, nobody's maintaining them and nobody's enforcing them to maintain them. So it's kind of superfluous in my opinion.
Can I just quick, so I'm kind of new to this tonight. So these guys ended up with us because DPW was saying they needed to come to us to see about stormwater mitigation. Is that how they ended up with us?
No.
How did they end up with us then?
Because the wetland, the
Okay.
proximity to the wetland.
But it sounds like, and then tell me if I'm getting this wrong. You're feeling that in this circumstance it might have been not necessary. Or are you saying in other circumstances?
I would say, in my opinion, I don't like the basin. I don't like disturbing over 5,000 square feet
Okay,
of land for two houses.
got you.
And, you know, and I'll disagree with Jeff a little bit. Some of the basins in town are being maintained, but I would say the vast majority are not.
Well,
And again, this is on a homeowners association, and I don't know that there's too many homeowners associations that are actually active in really doing anything and actually maintaining basins. I know several people that live in neighborhoods with basins, and the homeowners association is defunct and they're doing nothing. And I don't know what the mechanism in town is right now to make sure that these people are maintaining these basins. And the maintenance is not that extensive of a project to do. You just have to check it a couple times a year and cut some grass. But and like I said, my other one too is a lot of other ones are unlike the way this one that we're being told it is as a dry basin. Other ones, like the one at Hidden Ponds, you know, it retains water, and they're mosquito factories.
Yeah.
I would tend to think if we checked with the Board of Health, they would prefer not to see these at all either.
Okay,
You know, and then there is an alternative of an underground basin like LaPlante did right on North Main Street next to Bentley's. But the cost of one of those, an underground system like that, is about 3 times from what I asked Bill LaPlante before. 3 times as much to put in an above ground basin. But go ahead, Francis.
Yeah, my question is, on the first plan with the basin up close to the house but into the wetlands, I thought the reason for having the drainage basin was so water wouldn't get into the house, into the basement of the house. And
No.
that's not the case. Okay, that's not the case. So now I understand that the purpose of having a drainage basin is to protect the wetlands, right?
no,
No, what is the purpose of it?
The purpose of that basin is to collect the water, the stormwater that is coming off that Circle Street, that little street that comes in with the cul-de-sac. That's it.
Well,
That's
it
the
seems,
entire purpose.
yeah, that seems very big, like you said, it's a big thing for a small amount of water. It doesn't seem to me there would be that much water.
Yep. Was I correct with that, Jeff? Jeff knows
Yes.
better than me about some of this.
yes, yes. That
So
basically,
is it a bit overkill?
that's what I'm wondering.
it, when you have a subdivision like this of just 2 houses, it is way overkill.
Okay.
And basically, the state, the stormwater, stormwater is actually regulated by the Department of Environmental Protection, DEP,
Yep.
who we are a part of.
Right.
Okay, and the Mass State DEP stormwater regulation states any subdivision of or a single family house is exempt from the stormwater regulation. Any subdivision of 4 single family houses or less is exempt.
Oh,
The town created a
Oh,
regulation stating if you disturb more than 1 acre, which is 43,563 square feet, then you have to do these basins. And they're putting it on the developer or the homeowner or whoever is doing it. For example, I have a 3-lot subdivision I'm developing. Okay? All the topography drains back and away from the street. I have a 60-degree radius cul-de-sac that's impervious surface, which means it's asphalt. Water can't penetrate it. To collect that storm water, I have to put on my property because the town didn't want it underneath the roadway where it was originally designed. Can you?
yeah.
Okay, I hit something on my computer and lost the video. But anyway, so they Oh, there it is. So they told me I have to put it on my property, okay?
Mhm.
And mine is gonna be an underground system. It's costing me $20,000 to put that in for catching the stormwater off that little 60-degree radius cul-de-sac.
Okay.
So,
So we just approved him to go ahead and do this. And he doesn't really have to, is that what I'm hearing?
no, he has to because
Oh,
of
okay.
the regulation.
Okay,
But this is where I'm saying, the state has a regulation saying one thing. The
Right.
town created a regulation
okay.
Another. Yeah. Got you.
making it even more stringent.
Yep.
And then like the comment to me was, we want you to put on your property because we don't want to maintain it. But then on the
Right.
other hand, you turn around and get a stormwater enterprise fund to take to take money from me and all the other residents to maintain the stormwater system.
Oh, okay.
You see the rub there?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
what
it's to the tune of over $300,000 a year now, since this went into effect July 1st last year. And if you have your quarterly water bill, you'll see an extra fee on there for that.
And one of the things that, even though Jeff was a 3-lot subdivision, there's not as much stormwater there. And that's why he's able to do it with an infiltration system underground, which essentially is the same thing that they're doing at Robin Street there,
Mhm.
but on a little bit larger of a scale. It's not the same thing that LaPlante put in,
Mhm.
which is a lot more costly. But at least in Jeff's instance, I mean, there is still a maintenance issue that you're relying on the homeowner to maintain it, and probably won't know about it until there's a problem with it and something happens. But at least there, we don't have this massive above ground disturbance and potential, mosquito breeding area, which is
Right.
like one of the biggest things that bothers me about them. The two things, disturbing all this cover and the mosquito breeding thing. But
Yeah.
I could
Hey,
have done
Greg. Greg,
yes, sir.
I just want to go back to what Jeff was saying. If the state sets these mandates, like on the 4-lot, you don't have to have that system. Does the town have a right to supersede the state, or what? Is that legal?
Yes,
To the
because
best
they
of
have
my
home
knowledge,
rule.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, yes, the town can pass pretty much whatever they want for a bylaw or a regulation, but bylaws definitely get approved by the state. They have to be approved. I'm not so sure about the procedure with a regulation.
Yeah, I mean, if the state's mandating these rules, I don't understand that the town can supersede it.
A
It's
lot of
because-
towns do it with a lot of different things. I mean, we could put in a lot of things in conservation regulations or in the town bylaw that would supersede what the DEP wants.
Mhm.
It's because the town has home rule. Mass is a home rule state.
Okay. So what would be the alternative? I mean, are you proposing we recommend an alternative, Craig?
I don't know. It came to light to me more a little while ago when we started looking at this. I don't think I would mind it. I kind of understand it from the town's aspect, but like I said, I don't necessarily agree with it. And I don't think we could say, and this is where I believe it is an example of we could do it as a conservation commission and say, no, we're not putting in any more above ground retention or detention basins. They all need to be underground. But then that would really hamper any building in town, whether it's in the industrial complex or in a residential area, because it's just tremendously costly. Part of the reason for Bill LaPlante doing it was just simply the size of the piece of property. That's why essentially the basin there is under the parking lot. That's
Mhm.
where it is.
So just one other question, maybe to you, Jeff. So if you put in the underground system, then are you still responsible for paying stormwater management fees?
Of course.
Yeah,
Basically, even though that's there and in place, okay? And the
Yeah.
town takes an easement on that property for that stormwater system,
mm-hmm,
which means I have to give that land to the town. All right, or whoever.
I understand that, yeah.
Okay. But the town says, we're not gonna maintain it. The homeowners association has to maintain it because
Mhm.
we don't wanna do it. But all the residents who live there, if you own a house or a business, there's a stormwater fee that's assessed based upon this. It's based on the rainwater coming off your roof and going onto the land, assuming that all that water is going to run into the street and go into the stormwater system, along with your impervious surface, your driveway. Okay? In most cases, most houses, none of the water coming off the roofs is ever going to reach the street because it's going to be going into the lawn.
Yeah, it doesn't feel very scientific, yeah.
But that's what they based it on. And every business is based on, I believe, if I'm correct, on the square footage of the roof of the business.
Mhm.
But at the last council meeting, when they approved the budget, the superintendent of DEP wanted to alter on businesses because some businesses may have contaminants going into the water.
Mhm.
They wanted to assess a fee on the business's income. Now, I don't know what happened.
Well, I'm glad we had a little discussion on it, but, you know, maybe we can put something down, take some notes, everybody look at it a little bit, and
Yeah,
you can move forward and send a comment to town council, DPW, planning board, or whoever.
okay.
But I appreciate your comments.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything under policies and procedures or anything right now?
Nope.
Nope.
Hearing none. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
So move.
Seconded.
All right, the roll call vote. Jeffrey,
Aye.
Francis,
Yes.
welcome back, Aaron,
Yes.
and Tony,
Yes.
and I am a yes also.
All righty.
Thank you all for being here. Good seeing you.
Okay.
Good night.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.